Okay, cue jingle.
Cue jingle. Da, 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 da. There it is.
Dun 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 dun.
Da,
Greg,
da, da, da. Jonathan,
hey, hey man, how you doing?
I am well.
Yes.
I'm a little low energy today because I'm not feeling really great, but mostly
Yeah. Yeah, you've been sick. You've been under the weather.
yeah. I got something. I'm guessing it was maybe the flu or something. It's not lasting all that long, at
Yeah.
least so far. Excuse me. Over the weekend, and I of course was camping and made it worse, I think, by
Mm.
sleeping in the cold.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm recovering well and feeling, I would say, comparatively quite good. How are you?
Well, yeah, there's some color in your skin. You look, and I know listeners can't see this, but he's got some pep in his step, even though he's sitting
Yeah.
down. So
And
you
you
look like
saw
you're
me
all
when I was
good.
looking pretty rough. I
You're looking
think,
pretty rough.
yeah,
Yeah.
the fever was the worst. Whatever day I saw you was the worst fever. I think the highest the fever was.
Yeah. Over 100. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I got 101.8 was the highest that
Oh my God.
I measured. So
The human body is amazing how it's like, hey, this isn't right. Let's burn this out.
yes,
Let's just up the temp and kill it all.
exactly. And
Yeah.
it is kind of amazing. I was actually chatting with a friend of mine who's a physician. And
Hmm.
I said, who said the same thing, said, there's some great research on um, the like if you can tolerate a temperature below about 101, go ahead and let it burn, if you will,
Yeah.
because that's what your body is doing. So
Yeah. That's
yeah,
right. When
it's
I
limited.
was when I was younger and bolder, and I had it available, I would go and do steam rooms
Mm,
when I didn't feel well,
yeah.
or saunas. Get my temperature up, keep it up over a period of time, sweat it out, help my body burn it out,
Yeah.
and uh, and that helped, or I thought it helped, and that
Well,
probably
yeah,
was enough.
probably wasn't helping as much as we might think. But as we were saying a moment ago, there's this whole other fascinating conversation about placebo effect
Yeah.
and how much we can do for ourselves when we believe something works.
Now, the placebo effect is when you swallow a gummy bear whole.
Yes,
Is that what we're referring to?
that's exactly it. Yes, when you swallow
Okay, that's what I
your
thought.
whole, yep, and you don't chew it at all, that's the placebo effect.
It's been
Yep,
placeboed. Yeah.
what is that?
Hey, oh, and by the way, if you have no idea what's going on right now, welcome to Tasty Gents. Uh,
Welcome to Tasty Gents.
this is the show where Greg and I ramble on about things that we were just previously moments ago talking about, and then we randomly hit the record button and we continue the conversation.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, the Tasty Gents research team spends usually weeks and weeks in
weeks and weeks.
pursuit of a topic that they want us to talk about, and then they vet that topic over another few weeks.
Mhm.
And they bring in experts and then hand it finally to us as a fully polished topic. That's
Yes,
all, of course,
that's right.
completely lie. None of that is
Yep.
real. We make it up in the mere seconds before Jonathan hits the record button. So
That's pretty much how it goes. That's right. But you know what? Let's just say like that. Isn't that some of the best conversations anyway?
it has been so far.
It is. Oh, thank you. That's
See?
true. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
right. Right
These are
on,
great
man.
conversations.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. And so one of the things we were talking about was on the road to recovery.
Yes.
Um, we've done episodes on comfort foods, but
Yes.
there are foods that people eat that are supposed to, up your white cell count and increase your body's healing factor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that for preventative medicine, of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's not what we're talking about right now, but of course that's tacos.
Obviously.
That's
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Hard
But
shell.
if you don't get enough tacos and you do get
Yes.
sick,
Mhm.
then what have you done? Like, what do you like to eat that helps you?
Well, there's the ones that for me I sort of categorize them in um, sort of things that I know are directly going to be helpful. So the first one, and I'm having it right now, is Gatorade. So
Yeah.
Gatorade, and there's other ones like it, and there's goods and bads, and they have a lot of sugar and all that. But at the end of the day, staying hydrated, replacing electrolytes, getting salts and sugars into your system, that for me is always really, really important because
Yeah.
I tend to get dehydrated when I'm ill. So the one category is that, like, what do I know helps me out?
And
you know,
as a Floridian, isn't Gatorade free? You just have to show your ID.
it is, yes.
Yeah,
Well, you
that's
have to,
wonderful.
have talked about like, how the Gators specifically impacted your life as a child. And then once you do that and you avow all knowledge of other Florida schools, then yes, it is free.
Oh, then it's okay. Okay, good.
Um, it's funny, not a lot of people even remember anymore that that's where Gatorade came from. But that's good trivia.
Yeah,
Uh,
a little bit.
so there's things that we know are good for us, like fruits and vegetables, fruits, vitamin C and vegetables and stuff like that, and Gatorade. And then and this is what's more common for me, the ones that have like sort of a more immediate, they just make me feel better,
Mhm.
even if they're not helping with the illness. So, and this is one that I mentioned, and this is perhaps not intuitive, but we talk about, like tea with honey and lemon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
I drink coffee in the morning every morning,
sure.
but when I'm feeling badly as I am now, just coffee in the morning, it soothes my throat from whatever coughing I might have done overnight. And so
Yeah.
it's just got this, in addition to just being coffee, so already it wins, all the prizes. It soothes my throat a great deal.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I'll talk about some of the other ones beyond that, but they start to sound like comfort food, but there's some specific ones that really appeal to me that I'll talk about. What about for you?
Well, for me, yeah. So Gatorade's a big one. I like that. I always have. And then, and I'll say when I'm sick. When I'm sick because we went out and had too good of a time the night before, then
Yes.
Gatorade and saltine crackers.
Yes.
And that's just by my bedstand, and that gets me back up and running the next morning. So, and those are go-tos, but since I'm a little bit older, we don't do it that much anymore. Wink, wink.
Yes.
But or at least we don't admit to it. But we for when I actually get sick, and traditionally, I mean, we're going to go back to the topic of soups. Like it's easy to digest because there's a lot of liquid. It helps to hydrate because of that liquid. It has salt in it, which means it absorbs those liquids more easily. And then all the other things that are just comforting, that are easy to get into, right? So there are lots of vegetables. So like my mother would make Scotch broth soup, which is kind of it's a family favorite. So it's a beef based soup with really beef or lamb, could be mutton, anything like that. And it's got barley and vegetables and yeah, I grew up eating that kind of stuff. And then of course, good old tomato soup with a grilled cheese sandwich. Can't go wrong there when you're feeling a little under the weather.
Yes.
Just to keep it down. Chicken noodle soup, which I think it's a bit of a lie.
I think it's too.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a lie, but and I don't think it. Although chicken and dumplings, that's kind of good. And you weren't feeling well, and you reached out asking if I could run over and walk Charlie Brown. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Come on over. And then I said, what do you need? And you said Gatorade. So I brought Gatorades, but then I was at the store. And of course I thought, well, listen. And they didn't have because when I say the store, I was at the gas station that we have up the road. That's also a market. And they had a couple of soup options. Most of them were cup of noodles. And I thought, probably not going to get cup of noodles. That may be too much salt. But I did see they had chicken and stars. Campbell's Chicken Stars. And I thought, listen, if your mom's on the other side of the country, what might comfort you more than chicken and stars? So
I'm telling you, I have not yet eaten the chicken and star soup that you brought me, but it is on the very short list, and I'm kind of excited for it for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say though, and this has been interesting as I have both decided what I want to eat as I'm feeling better and plan for what I want to eat. So not feeling well for me also falls in some categories. You've talked about like if you have sort of an evening out, then you might have Gatorade and saltines by the bedside. I have like digestive system challenges at times, and then what I have now is kind of throat and cough and head cold and all that. So for digestive system challenges, it's easy. I don't eat. The easiest thing to do is to let my system have a reset, and I don't eat. So that's not interesting. But I've got something like I got now, as you said, something that is a little salty, just for some reason, really, really, really speaks to me. I really enjoy it even more, it seems, but also something really smooth. So my throat is already a little bit raw, so something that's going to go down really smoothly, something maybe a little creamy. So I've been looking at recipes for bisque,
Oh
crab
yeah.
bisque.
Oh,
And I saw a recipe the other day for clam bisque that looks really good.
nice.
And that's a thing I love to make. Tomato soup and grilled cheese, yes, but cream of tomato soup.
Yeah.
So again, a little salty, but creamy too. And then the one that I think I'm going to be making sometime in the next week is I've been having a craving for Indian dal, which is a lentil, kind of a lentil stew. It's a warm, it's a very spicy and not hot spicy, but sort of very warm spices, which is can be proven, you know, obviously in Indian cooking, as in any cooking, the range of spice has a lot to do with the cook. But dal is just it's got such warm spices in it that it's a great fall dish anyway. But it's the lentils get really soft and are really creamy, but still have a little bit of texture to them. And then served over rice with a piece of bread or naan if you've got it. It's a really, really great dish. That's on my very short list of things to make.
That sounds great. Yeah, I love that in restaurants. You know, like you said, it's a great fall, comforting, warm, inviting dish, and over rice. Forget about it. Yeah, that's just the best way. I love that.
And then you mentioned chicken and dumplings, and so for me, even more than chicken soup, chicken and dumplings, you know, there's a lot more to it. It's got more texture, obviously, because it's chunkier than average chicken soup is. The broth is typically thicker.
Yeah.
And of course, there's dumplings, which are essentially just biscuits.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's still, I don't know, it's still not hard on my throat. Chicken dumplings still really easy on my throat. Actually, I have some in the freezer right now too.
Stop it.
I will not stop. Chicken and dumplings in the freezer
unstoppable
right now as we speak. Yeah.
The thing about that I love about dumplings is that, like you said, they're like a biscuit. So it is a softer dough. It's not so you I like when I'm eating something that's not, even if it's creamy, I like to have like a nice sourdough piece. But that's a harder, crunchier thing to get down.
Yeah.
But a biscuit, if it's done right, oh come on. We just as you know, my cousin Chad and his husband were in town, and we had a great time. And we took them to Sherman's, which we mentioned in the past. And Sherman's is if you're in Palm Springs, it's like a New York style deli that they have, and they do and everything they do is fresh. They make their own breads, they make their own desserts, they roast their own meats, they do the whole thing, everything, all their pickles, make their own pickles, the whole thing, top to bottom. The only thing they don't make are their condiments, so the mustards and stuff. Oh, okay. So, and they do a chicken soup with a matzo ball. Oof! Oh, come on! And it's so good, and yet we always have to get the small one, because the big one, if I get the big one, I'm not eating anything else.
Gosh,
I don't have room for anything else.
Yeah.
Right. I'll get that and maybe an Arnie Palmer, and that's it. But it's so nice. And even the weather it's like in the 70s. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have a matzo ball.
Right on.
Yeah.
You know, and as you say that, though, the other thing that comes to mind when I think of foods that heal or foods that I crave when I'm not feeling well, and I haven't had this now in a while, not since I moved to Palm Springs, and it's Vietnamese pho.
Oh my gosh.
Which and you know, you and I both lived in Seattle. We lived in Seattle a lot of winters. Or the Seattle area at least. And so there's something about that broth and the noodles on a rainy, cold day that just, whether you're ill or not ill, it's, oh gosh, it's so good.
It is great. Yeah, I love it. And so I grew up as a kid, and I was a big fan of ramen. You know, they would have these, and they had, and as a kid in Alaska, there's not too many ramen restaurants when I was there. So the one that was closest to us, and I remember going there with my dad because he was adamant I was going to learn how to use chopsticks, and I was like 4. So he would take me to the ramen or the restaurant that was in the airport. And this was back when you could go into the airport and eat all the restaurants because you didn't have to go through security. And you just go in and just and so I remember, and they had the chopsticks that had the little rubber band So
Yes.
the kids could, yeah. So, and so I would do that. And that's why I learned to do that. And because I felt confident doing that, I just remember like loving, I always want to eat it, right? Because I want to show off that I had these chopstick skills. And to this
Right.
day, I'm pretty good with a pair of chopsticks. And not to
Nice.
brag, but I can eat Jello with chopsticks.
Whoa.
I'm just putting it out there.
That I
Yeah.
believe we need to have a contest.
So
Because
yeah.
I may also be a person. I'm not sure I could. I've tried to eat Jello, but I somehow feel confident that I could.
If not, let's just have a dinner. And let's
What a
just
great idea!
let's just find out all the things we can't pick up with chopsticks.
Fantastic. Ramen.
Yeah, let's do it.
The broth part.
The broth part, yeah. Cool.
What else? What else do you crave when you're not feeling well?
You know, I do like teas, and so I like the tea and the honey. My mother used to make me tea, but when she had to work, and my grandmother was visiting. My grandmother, and again, I'm like 5 or 6. She would make me hot toddies, and so she would like pop in whatever you put into a hot toddy, whatever that alcohol is, because then I'd fall asleep.
Whiskey, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, she make that, and so she's like, and then my mother would come home from work, and my grandmother's there, and Jonathan's asleep, and it's like
Yes.
7 o'clock at night. And she's like, he never goes
That's
to sleep this
amazing.
early. And my grandmother's like, oh yeah, I just gave him a hot toddy. My mother was like, what?
That is awesome.
You're feeding my child alcohol. She's like, well, he was crying, and now he's not. He was
Right,
feeling
exactly. It worked.
It works. Yeah,
That was such a solution. I remember I was at my my grandfather's funeral. So this is in the middle of Tennessee. This was in the 1980s. And so I'm there, and I had a cold. And I was in my maybe late teens at the time.
Yeah.
But my grandmother is there. My aunt is there. Lots of sort of aunts and great aunts, and lots of women in the family were there. And I think they all brought me some version of honey and lemon and whiskey. Just, they were sort of all coming up, to a place where, look, there's someone who needs to be taken care of. And so, I slept well that night, as you can imagine.
That's just it. That's what it does. Yeah. Yeah. And my mother never did this, but my grandmother would always, tell us the story. Like they would dip the binky either in a Coca-Cola or in a little bit of whiskey, and the baby's teething and goes in, and the baby goes to sleep. And I'm like, I don't understand why there's alcoholics in the world.
Exactly.
That must be.
Yeah. Why is this a problem? I don't even know. That is so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, just thinking about like foods that heal, and we talk about this, there's some overlap between comfort food and sort of foods that I crave when I'm not feeling well, because part of not feeling well is just feeling a little low, feeling, energy is low and not really, don't want to do anything. And so sometimes it's those comfort foods that I reach for as well.
Yeah.
And very often it is things like soups, macaroni and cheese, pastas.
Oh,
I had some leftover baked ziti last night. That was the most food I've had since I first got sick a few days ago.
Yeah.
And it felt great to just sort of have that warm pasta. And then of course, see, this is what's, I'm going to laugh at myself here. So also what I had was a little bit of ice cream, because my throat was sore and it was a little scratchy, and it just feels better if I have a little bit of ice cream. Now,
yes,
the fact that I have ice cream pretty much every other night of any week when I'm not feeling with a scratchy throat should not at all influence the fact that I had ice cream because my throat was sore.
So I feel like, you're always healing something. Usually it's just your emotions.
It's true.
Is that what yes. Okay.
That's exactly it. Sometimes Charlie Brown is just not like exactly where I need him to be, and I need a little bit of comfort, and that ends up being ice cream. I just blamed my ice cream addiction on Charlie Brown. He didn't even flinch. He's right.
You know what? Because they know it. That's what dogs are, like little angels, and they're just there to take the burden away. That's what they are. Sometimes it's the blame, right?
Yeah.
I haven't farted in 15 years.
That's so handy, and I'm concerned for you.
Right.
So that's what's happening for me. I'm on the mend. Those are the kind of foods that are making me feel like I'm going to likely survive.
Yeah.
So that aside, one part I love to talk about when we're chatting. What are you cooking this week, Jonathan?
I have some we bought we went to Costco, we bought a whole bunch of meats and other
Mm,
vegetables and the things, and not all of them fit in our freezer.
mm,
So I am having to do a mad dash to cook some things before they're no longer viable.
yes.
So I have ribs in the oven, and I've got pork chops in the sous vide,
Oh my.
and we're going to get to choose what we're going to have tonight. I'm not sure. I think it all depends. So that's what I'm cooking now. And now I'm thinking, because now you mentioned the Indian dal soup, and I'm like, I love making Indian spiced foods, and we have spices here. And now I'm thinking, oh
Mm,
my gosh, maybe a curry this week.
there you go.
Yeah, yeah. What
That's
are
a
you
great
doing?
idea. I um I am actually going to be on the lookout for that some of the things I mentioned are the things that I am probably going to be working on this week. So I do want to make the Indian dal. So I've been looking at recipe videos online, and
Hmm.
most of them recommend black lentils or what are sometimes called beluga lentils, which
Hmm.
are not as easy to find in a lot of grocery stores as red lentils are or green lentils are.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I was going to make look at a couple places today that might have them, and if not, just order them online.
Yeah.
That might be a great thing to make, and just have with some rice just for the coming week. Just a little bit of Indian dal uh,
Yeah.
here and there. Also, I am actually kind of excited about making bisque. Um,
Yeah.
I have a couple of recipes for shrimp bisque that I've made. I have a recipe for shrimp bisque that I've made a couple of times, more than a couple, and it's very, very good. And then butternut squash soup, we're right in the right season for that.
This is time. This is
And
time.
all this is stuff that I crave when I'm not feeling well,
Yeah.
and also is great for autumn. I mean, autumn in Palm Springs is not like autumn in much of the rest of the country, but
Yeah.
it was cool enough this morning that I couldn't sit outside and have coffee. It was too cold for me. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so those are the things that I'm making this week.
Yeah. In Palm Springs, unlike other parts of the country where you go out to watch the changing of the leaves, we just go out to watch the Canadians burn
It's true.
and get red.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a changing of the Canadians
It's a
that we,
beautiful
yeah.
time of year.
Yes.
The porcelain white Canadians show up here in Palm Springs. You have to wear sunglasses because the gleam
Yes. It
off of the
is.
skin, because they're in shorts for the first time in 12 months. The gleam is it's really beautiful. It really, the
It
way it
is.
catches the eye is beautiful, but it can be
It's
damaging without
amazing.
sunglasses. And then yes, in a matter of what is it, usually 3 or 4 seconds, they flash fry right
Yeah.
there on the street in front of you, and it's an exciting time. So
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really
it
fun.
is.
Yeah, it's a great time. Um, well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm
Thank you,
glad
my
that
friend.
you're continuing to be on the mend. And I think we did this before for things that we eat in the summer. I think we need to have a fall food festival. We need to have a fall talk. Like, what are we doing for this time of year now that we're
We
into
do.
November?
Yeah, when we started this, I remember even saying that there was a lot to talk about for fall, and I think we've done a great job at not leaning into fall cooking, but I think
Yeah.
we definitely are due for a fall episode.
All right. We'll put it on the calendar.
As long as there's no expectation of pumpkin spice.
Good Lord.
I'm anti pumpkin spice. I'm going to say it right now. It's a fine flavor profile in limited amounts.
Well, and first off, and I don't know if you know this, but all pumpkin spice comes from, it's harvested with slave labor and child labor.
Know
It's
that.
pumpkin spice. It is. Yeah.
It
So it's
doesn't
evil.
surprise me though. I feel like
Yeah.
I've always suspected that.
Yeah. That's what gives it the spice. Yeah.
Good to know.
Okay. I think, listen, Greg, wonderful chat with you. I think we're at the end of our time here.
Yeah.
Listener, thank you for joining us. If you want to catch up with more about Tasty Gents, find us on our Facebook page. Otherwise, tastygents@gmail.com. Send us an email.
We'd love to hear from you. Thanks
We
for
sure would.
staying with us. And Jonathan, nice to hear from you again.
Nice to hear from you. All right, buddy.
Okay.
Talk to you
All right.
later.
See ya.
Bye.
You've been listening to Tasty Gents, a geeky Palm Springs to Seattle podcast.
Okay, cue jingle.
Cue jingle. There it is.